guys, first thing I just want to say, can we appreciate my shirt? I bought this at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado and I am obsessed with it. Obviously it says Red Rum on there because that's where Stephen King got inspired to write The Shining and Pet Sematary. I just wanted to call attention to it because I know y'all can appreciate it with me. So today we're going to be talking about the best horror movies on Hulu. Now I don't think anyone asked for this, but it came to me when I was looking through the horror and I was like, you know what? They have some good options on here, so I decided to curate a list. If someone had asked me, what would you recommend on Hulu, or what are your favorite horror movies on Hulu, what would you suggest? So that's what this list is. It's not necessarily the best, but they're my favorite, but the title is clickbait a little. It's like, I don't know. It's subjective. It's the best horror in my opinion. Now, whenever I film these types of videos, like I did with the Netflix video, a week later it seems that the movies are then removed from the service. So if you're watching this from the future and this list is no longer relevant, I apologize. But I still do recommend all of the movies on this list so you can seek them out in some other way. So if you're like me and most millennials, I assume, you don't have cable, but you have pretty much every streaming service available. I have Netflix, Hulu, Shudder, CBS, Tubi is another one that's good and free. And I think with all of those streaming services available, Hulu is often overlooked when it comes to their horror selection. I think it's a little bit underrated. I think it's not known for its horror selection. But in my opinion, it doesn't disappoint when it comes to horror. I think a lot of people subscribe to Hulu for the reality TV. That's what I do it for. But if that's all you have and you want some horror recommendations, I think these are some good options. Hulu's not the best option when it comes to horror streaming, but if it's all you got, this list I think is a great place to start. Also, there are the Into the Dark movies that are on there. I have yet to watch any of them. I believe they're all done by Blumhouse, so if this list isn't doing it for you, feel free to check those ones out on there because there's a ton of them and they're original horror and they look pretty good. So first up we have P2, which is a 2007 crime slasher thriller type movie. It is set around Christmas time, so for me, it's one of my go-to Christmas horror movies. So the story follows a girl who is working late on Christmas Eve and she finally decides to leave, and when she gets to her car, it won't start. So she decides to, or attempts to, get help from the security officer working the parking garage, and something is a little bit off and creepy about him. It stars Rachel Nichols, who you might recognize as the babysitter in the Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds. It also stars Wes Bentley, which we all know and love from American Horror Story, among other things. So I think the acting is really on point in this movie, and it's surprisingly really well done. I don't think it had a big budget. It is kind of the mid-2000s vibe of a movie, although it is more of a thriller suspense movie than it is a real horror, but the underlying storyline that is going on is definitely horrifying. Next up we have Seven, which is a very popular movie that came out in 1995. Also more of a thriller. It's not classified as a horror online when you look up the genres and things like that, but if you've seen the movie, you know that some of the imagery in this movie and practical effects used are horror, like so scary. There's some scenes that have stuck with me to this day. The cast for this movie is amazing. It stars Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey, and probably a million other people that you'd recognize. So of course the acting is really well done, as well as the storyline. So it follows two detectives who take on a case about these gruesome murders that they believe are done by a serial killer. And then they slowly realize that each of the deaths represent one of the 7 deadly sins, hence the title of the movie. If you like the true crime genre, you're probably going to love this movie if you haven't seen it yet, but if you love true crime, you've probably heard of this movie. It is, of course, fiction, so it's a little bit, it's not true crime, obviously, hence the true. But there is a lot to love about this movie, including the practical effects and the hours and hours of makeup that was done on some of the things in this movie. It's highly, highly disturbing and definitely one of the best movies available on Hulu. Next up, we have a weird movie of Annihilation. This came out last year in 2018. It stars Natalie Portman, who portrays a scientist who takes on a dangerous secret expedition into this weird, mysterious zone that appeared on Earth that does not follow the laws of nature and is pretty distorted. The visuals are very beautiful and odd and alien-esque, and I don't know other adjectives I could use to describe this movie. Honestly, I didn't really love this movie until the second time that I watched this. The first time I watched it, my initial reaction after was, what did I just watch? After seeing it a second time, I now own it on DVD. I do really love this movie, but it is a weird, wild ride of a film. It's not really a movie that's an easy watch. You have to kind of follow along with everything that is going on because it is a lot. You might not love it the first time you watch it because it is so bizarre, but once you've seen it, and for me the ending is the weakest point of the movie. I love the first 3/4 and the buildup of everything and the visuals throughout that part of the movie. That's definitely the best. So if you just let go of the expectation of how it's going to end or what you think is going to happen, because guarantee you don't know what's going to happen, if you let that go, it's a really good movie. Next up we have The Crazies, which is a movie that came out in 2010, and it is about a toxin that turns people basically into zombies. It's kind of like a zombie movie. I think you could safely say it's a zombie movie. It causes people to become violent, and the authorities are trying to contain it within the town where this is occurring, and of course not everyone that is contained into the town or inside the town are infected, so there's people who are trying to avoid dying and avoid these creatures and avoid getting infected. Elizabeth Banks actually turned down a role for this film because she felt that it was too similar to her character in Slither, which is another really good movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet. And I kind of see what she's talking about, because although the storylines between Slither and The Crazies are not similar, the writing, there's something about the writing and like the imagery and the flow of the movies that they kind of have the same feeling in it. So if you've seen Slither and you haven't seen The Crazies, it's kind of like that. The Crazies is apparently a remake of a 1973 movie, which I had no idea until doing the research for this video. So I think this is a really strong movie. I'm not sure if it's really loved by a lot of people. I think it is a little bit underrated. It's another one that I do own, but I like that it's kind of your typical zombie storyline, but it's still original in how they deal with it, and I don't know, there's something original about the storyline that makes it not just your every other zombie movie. Next we have Final Destination. So all of the best Final Destination movies of the series, which would be 1 through 4, are available on Hulu. I'm not sure why they stopped at 4, but I'm glad they did. 4 is also a little questionable. 1 through 3 is the best, but those, you know, they're on Hulu. So this counts as one movie, but technically there's 4, so there you go. I don't think I need to get too into what Final Destination is or the storyline or anything like that, because we all know what Final Destination is at this point, and personally I think it's a great rewatch type of movie. I've seen number 3 so many times. I seem to do a Final Destination marathon at least once a year, so if you have nothing else to watch on Hulu and have seen everything else on this list, give Final Destination a rewatch. I'm just assuming you guys have already seen all of the Final Destination movies. Maybe you haven't, but I recommend still watching them regardless. Next we have the movie Honeymoon. This movie is so underrated, I feel. I've put it on multiple lists in the past, I know. It was released in 2014 and it stars Rose Leslie, which you would recognize from Game of Thrones. So it follows a couple who of course were just married. They're going on their honeymoon and they decide to choose a remote cabin in the woods, which in movies that never ends well, but it's definitely, I would go there for my honeymoon. That sounds like a good time. So the wife, Rose Leslie, ends up sleepwalking while she's there into the woods and everything, and when she comes back, her husband starts to realize something is wrong, and slowly she is just getting weirder and just acting very bizarre. This is kind of a slower build. It's definitely more in the genre of drama thriller because there is like more story involved there, and it's not in-your-face horror. I think until the very end. Some would argue it never gets in-your-face horror, but I think there are definitely horror elements, at least towards the last quarter of the movie. It is very atmospheric if you like cabin-y movies or woods movies and things like that. This is a beautiful film. It is, atmospheric and everything, but still has that disturbing imagery in there, so I would give it a try if you haven't yet. Next we have Paranormal Activity 2. Just the second one. It's a random one. They don't have any other Paranormal Activity movies on Hulu. Just number 2, but ironically, that's my favorite one in the series, so it works for this list. I know Paranormal Activity is very polarizing in whether you love it or hate it. I think it really is one or the other. I don't know if anyone really just casually is like, it's okay. I think you really either it's effective for you and it's scary, or you don't think it's scary at all and it's stupid. So personally, I love these movies. I love a good found footage film, and I loved the low budget aspect of these movies, and I think Emma from Spooky Astronauts explained this perfectly in her video and why these movies are so good and so scary and effective. So if you have not seen her Unpopular Horror Opinions Part 2 video, definitely check it out. I'll try to link it up here or down below, either one. Also leave a comment down below, what side are you on with Paranormal Activity? Do you like it? Think it's scary? Or do you not like it? Don't think it's scary? Or in the middle, maybe that does exist. Maybe I'm wrong. The Amityville Horror, I mentioned this earlier on when I was talking about P2 and the girl playing the babysitter. Yes, the Amityville Horror, the 2005 Ryan Reynolds version, is on Hulu. This is actually one of the first DVDs that I ever owned, and I would like interchange watching this and Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban every day after high school. It'd be one or the other every day. So this is a remake of the 1979 movie, and it is actually based on a book that came out in 1977 based on true stories, allegedly. Now I believe that something happened with the DeFeos. Obviously that is confirmed. It did happen. But I believe the book is based on the Lutz family and what is portrayed in the movies of the family coming in and experiencing paranormal activity in the house because of the DeFeos like haunting the house, I guess. So there's obviously a lot of controversy around the actual story and the true story that happened within the house, but if you just like ignore what the real story is and don't really think about it and just go into this watching it as a fiction movie, I think it's really good. I think it's underrated. I think it's like not, how many times am I gonna say I think we get, oh my god. It's rated pretty poorly online, but of course on this channel we don't go off ratings, you know, that's been proven. I think it's an amazing movie. I've seen it so many times. I could probably quote the whole dang thing, so I'm a little bit biased, but it's a good one. Next one, again, I think a little underrated, not guilty pleasure, but a no shame movie that I really enjoy. The first one's probably better, but Open Water 2, Adrift. It's another random addition to the Hulu selection for horror because they don't have the first one on there. It's just the second one. I don't really know what happens when that, like what is going on when that happens because they don't have the rights to the first. I think the open water movies are an effective lower budget type movie that is genuinely scary. There's something about cheesy shark movies that I love. I don't know what it is. Yes, I will be watching 47 Meters Down, the second one. You're actually balancing on top of 47 Meters Down right now, the DVD. So Open Water 2 was released in 2006, and it's about a group of friends having a good time on a boat in the ocean, and they decide to jump in the water and swim around, right? When they do that, they forget to drop a ladder down, so they have no way of getting back into the boat. I don't know how realistic that storyline really is. I feel like most boats have like a little platform somewhere like near the edge where you could like climb up it. I don't know though. I just watch a lot of Below Deck and that's more of yachts. I don't know. But regardless, it's still an entertaining, kind of cheesy horror movie. So the last movie on this list is actually not a movie at all, but I had to put it on here because I don't think enough people are talking about it. The Terror. So this is actually an AMC TV series that just was released earlier this year. They added all the episodes to Hulu, so if you're looking to binge a show right now, The Terror is where it's at. They actually just started airing season 2, and I have not started it yet, but I am so excited. All the seasons of The Terror are unrelated, so it's like American Horror Story except they don't have the same actors, so it's basically an entirely new series completely, but still made by the same people. But the second season, I don't know if it's based on an actual book, because The Terror, the original series and the first season, is indeed based on a book. I think I had to put it on this list even though it is a TV show because it is some of the best horror content that is available on Hulu in my opinion. So it is a period piece that's a little bit more of a subtle horror. It is entirely atmospheric, like the visuals of this, I was gonna say movie, it's not a movie. The visuals of this TV show are haunting, like that's the best way to describe them. And just the concept of what is happening and the situation that these soldiers are in is beyond. So it's definitely more subtle, and the horror really is in the plot and the visuals, but it's not like super straightforward horror, but it's there. Also, it stars Jared Harris as Crozier, who I'm starting to love as an actor personally, because he was also in the HBO series, mini-series Chernobyl, which was again another amazing series that came out this year. So even if you don't have Hulu, I still recommend seeking out The Terror in some other way, because it is a fantastic show. So that is my list for the top 10 horror movies or pieces of horror entertainment on Hulu, if that's all you got. Even if you don't, even if you have other options, I think Hulu is underrated when it comes to horror. They have some good stuff on there. They have a lot of other horror movies too. This is just the creme de la creme for me. Like I said in the beginning, if you were to ask me what I would recommend on Hulu, this is it. Feel free though, if you've seen and loved other things on Hulu in the horror genre, leave it down in the comments. I'd love to explore more of the horror that's available on Hulu, and let me know, should I check out the Into the Dark movie series thing that is on there? So yeah, let me know your favorites on Hulu. Let me know what you think about all the movies on this list, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.